Hey everyone, it's Lisa Sweeney here from Business in Heels, and I'm joined today by the lovely Anna Marinkovic, who's the Exec General Manager of Small Business Bank at NAB. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you, Lisa. Lovely to be here.
And we're talking about gender equity. Anna was a finalist in the Gender Equity Awards, and she's always been doing so much to support women. She helps us out with mentor mornings. You know, she speaks for us at the Leadership Summits. You know, you're a great supporter for many women. So, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to get involved in the gender equity work that you do today.
Look, Lisa, for me, it wasn't so much of an inspiration, but rather a necessity. I think that when you're born in a position of privilege in terms of gender and cultural and ethnic background, then you have that luxury of finding inspiration in helping others. But when you are ethnically, culturally different, when English is not necessarily your first language, you always sound like you don't quite belong. And in these circumstances, you are then forced into developing a sense of purpose because you may feel you need to work extra hard to prove your worth. And then, particularly after one reaches a certain level of success, I have felt this really deep rooted desire to help those that have so much potential but maybe little opportunity just by virtue of their starting point. So for me, this is not something that is part of my leadership journey or leadership brand, but actually it's something that is very core of who I am as a human.
Which is great. And it comes across as being so authentic because that is who you are and you do champion people. So what advice would you give to others who are passionate about advancing gender equity?
Yes, well, Lisa, I don't think you'd be surprised to hear that I am a big believer in personal accountability and responsibility and being the change that you actually want to see around you. Now, we will not be able to have an impact on, you could argue widespread institutional biases unless we look at our own behavior, firstly and foremostly. And then asking that question around, what did I tangibly do today to make a difference to this issue? And I must say, there are some days where I question how much difference am I actually making. And there are times where I feel that the mountain is too steep, particularly when I enter rooms that do not seem particularly diverse. But I think it is in asking the question and being aware of your own impact, and particularly if you're in a position of leadership and visibility, that is crucial. And, people do see how you behave and whether your actions have congruence with your words. And if you're indeed genuine in your intent and your effort about doing your bit in creating a more equitable environment for everyone. And that the ownership of that behavior, I think, creates a snowball effect on the culture around you. So you start normalizing gender equity to the point where it becomes status quo. And that is the culture my teams and I try to create every single day. So my key advice is start with yourself, your team, and your work, and look to lead by example.
But as you mentioned, sometimes you feel like you walk into a room that isn't so diverse. In fact, you might be changing the diversity statistics just by walking into that room. How do you go about creating some change there?
Look, I think that everything in life takes a village. And I think that, walking into that room, people, rarely remember your words, your reasoning, your benefits analysis, your rhetorics, your narrative, but they do remember and recall how a particular situation or individual makes them feel. So for
Mm.
me, inclusion is as much about creating brilliant meritocratic cultures as also, having quotas and recruitment strategies that ensure that I'm not the only person going into a room and changing a diversity statistic. I try to collaborate with organizations and individuals that have deep conviction about the need for inclusion and equity. And I think the other thing also, Lisa, it's very easy to see if institutions represent the diverse nature of their client and their customer
Mm.
base. And that for me is so much more telling than a line in the yearly performance report on a percentage shift on some diversity measure. You can really, really see the impact of organizations that are walking the talk, that are implementing strategies, that are changing the world one behavior at a time, versus those that are merely just using the language and ticking the boxes. And I must say that I'm actually very fortunate to work for an employer that recognizes that living the right actions and living the right behaviors are actually key to our sustainability as a business. And where I feel that my colleagues and I can continue to make a genuine difference for years to come, and hopefully a sustainable difference at that.
And I know you personally, Anna, go out and you love meeting with your SME clients and hearing their stories. And I think it's, as you said, it's about how you make people feel, that
Mm.
they are valued and wanted and respected. And I'm sure you're doing that the same with your own team.
Look, it's really interesting, particularly in the small business space, Lisa, where a lot of small businesses are owned by first and second generation migrants, and they
Mm.
tend to find dealing with banks quite daunting. And then I kind of show up with an accent and somewhat similar life story to them or their parents, and all of a sudden they actually tend to see the bank through a different lens,
Mm.
and you kind of feel the atmosphere in the room changing. And I think that's a beautiful example of that inclusion and diversity and embracing those differences and making people feel really comfortable about that. But I think at the end of the day, meritocracy must be, the key criteria that we measure ourselves on. So creating opportunities for people from all walks of life to realize their potential is so important.
And I'm sure you do that with your own team. In fact, I have seen you do that with a number of your own team, trying to carve out different opportunities. You do a bit of collaboration too, don't you, Anna, with different
Yes,
organisations? Tell us a
I
bit
do.
about how you work with that to advance gender equity.
Again, I think it is really important to pick and choose a couple of organizations that you feel a real congruence with, and whose cultural and whose practices really align with your own values and the values of that progress that you seek to be part of. And over the years, I've just had the privilege and fortune of working with many different organizations that are making a real difference. Some of them not terribly visible, but particularly in the volunteering space,
Mm.
but really, really lifting people from disadvantage and providing opportunities that otherwise they would not have. And I often talk about the power of economic empowerment when it comes to women and the importance of education. And I think those two factors, any organization that takes those two things really, really seriously, will see a genuine cultural shift.
Absolutely. And I think that's so, so important. Anyway, you're speaking my language, but, did you want to share with us some of the amazing activities that you're doing internally in NAB also to support gender equity?
Look, at NAB, we've always taken a view that our teams and the leaders in our teams need to better represent the diverse communities that we operate in, so that our customers feel a sense of congruence when they talk to us, when they speak to us, that we have a level of commonality with them, but also to demonstrate and show that ability for social mobility, and that when you properly engage with education and you work hard, you actually get to see the benefits of that. So being really, really conscious of the culture that we create within our team has been really important. So whilst quotas and stats are kind of useful metrics, for me, creating a culture where you're attracting people and giving them confidence to apply and to put themselves forward and to feel that they'll be listened to is much more powerful than kind of ticking boxes on and ensuring that you've got 2 female candidates and 1 male, etc., etc. Because for me, diversity is a lot more than a gender paradigm as well. So for me, it's all about the culture. It's a culture of inclusivity, culture of equality, culture of meritocracy, but also being super conscious about who we promote, who we mentor, who we provide the learning opportunities to, who do we back to take a risk, and ensuring that people from, more disadvantaged backgrounds and people that represent certain, are underrepresented in terms of the communities get a chance.
Yeah, that's great, Anna. Really great. As you know, that's obviously the reason why we have the Gender Equity Awards, to try and find more of these sorts of things. So, as you're trying to sift this culture across all your people, how do people, get to feel it? You at the top, might, be embodying this. How do you get everybody else on the team on board?
Well, as I said, it becomes a part of your cultural fabric. It becomes part of how we run our teams. It becomes part of your leadership brand. It becomes part of your narrative and daily rhythms. A lot of people can say the right things, but it's when you are walking that talk and people see meaningful action, meaningful change, and most importantly, a care factor that goes beyond ticking the boxes and achieving certain level of statistics. That's the change. That's the real foundational change. And it's a bit of a snowball effect as well. People hear, people know. Australia is a relatively small market, and people want to be part of the culture. People want to be part of that team. People want to know that they're going to be valued and heard, and that every voice matters. So reputation takes care of itself.
I think at the end of it, as you say, most employees just want to feel respected and valued, and like they have an opportunity to have a say. Scott's just added that gender equity is not lip service, and we would totally agree with that. And so this International Women's Day, how, have you got thoughts about how it's not going to be just a talk fest?
Look, again, going back to that personal accountability and responsibility, we are going to do, myself and my team are going to continue to drive this agenda regardless of whether we are in March or whether we are in September. This is part and parcel of who we are and the culture that we've built and continue to build, particularly in the banking sector. So I think the key there is just consistency and real commitment that goes beyond Talkfest.
Such a great message. And I think the thing I love about the Gender Equity Awards, as you said, it's not just gender. The people that are really, really doing this well are tackling, disability, race, all the different biases that are coming out. And, it's just fabulous to hear you talk about that and some of the things you're doing with your team. So thank you so much, Anna, for coming on and sharing some of that. You can obviously see why Anna was a finalist in the Gender Equity Awards, because clearly she's been doing so much. And, it's not just for your team, it's also what you're doing back to the broader community, because you touch so many organisations and so many businesses with NAB Small Business Bank, which I guess is why you keep winning awards as you're going along.
Thank you, Lisa. And also, thank you for everything that you do as well in spreading and supporting this message and agenda. It's, the community appreciates that very much.
Oh, thanks. And we just all hope that we get to see a bit of a shift in gender equality sometime, maybe in my lifetime. Wouldn't it be great if we suddenly turned around in the next 5 to 10 years and said, this is not an issue anymore?
Yes, well, I think that's a little bit too ambitious, 5 to 10
Maybe.
years, but let's hope that it's within our lifetimes and that it is global as well, right? No point in kind of achieving it in one local part of this global community. It's important that this message is
exactly is everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.